Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. Sorry, cold-blooded old girl here. Ah, there we go. All right. So this morning I am running out and I'm getting a couple of things to make for dinner tonight because I have been working a lot. My wife has been responsible for a majority of the cooking, and she's not been feeling well for a couple of weeks. And I just want to make a special meal for her because I appreciate all she does. So anyway, I am running out to our local farm market, and I'm going to get there early, just as they're opening. It's just about 8 a.m. right now. And what I want to do is get a nice beef roast. We're going to make a nice roast beef today. And gonna get some vegetables from the garden to put in with that beef. So I figured I'd take you along with me today, take you shopping for the beef, take you into the garden to pick some turnips and some things like that to go in with the roast, and just take you along with me on my day off because I haven't posted for a while. I've been very, very busy. So anyway, bear with me. We're going to be at the farm market very soon. I only live a couple of miles away, and we'll go from there. I have arrived. This is my favorite place to shop. It is this crazy simple, tiny little place. They got the best prices, some of the best meat, and some of the friendliest people. So we got the trifecta of awesomeness, and it is just now turning 8, so I should be able to just go right in. I'd say we're good on onions. Where else are you gonna get 5 pounds of potatoes for $2.99? Love it. Okay, so 1 pound of bacon, $3.99. Come on now. All right, I am finished at the store. I got a 6 pound London broil, really good cut. I got my carrots because my garden carrots aren't quite there yet. Same for the onions, they're just not ready. So I had to get some onions. I got some potatoes because potatoes, tried to grow them here, didn't work so well. Sweet potatoes work good, white potatoes not so much. And I think that's all I got. But anyway, total out the door was like 35 bucks. That's why I like to shop there. I mean, you can't go anywhere else and get a London broil that big plus all that stuff for 35 bucks. You couldn't even get the London broil for that. So I love small, locally owned little farm markets like that. You get great deals. So we're heading back to the house, and I've got to get in the garden and get some turnips to go with this. And I'll explain. Oh, I forgot, I got mushrooms too, because what would be the point of gravy if I don't have a mushroom gravy? Come on, that's good stuff. So anyway, we're heading back to the house. I'm gonna get in the garden, get some stuff picked to go with this, and we'll start getting everything prepped. All right, I am back from the store. I'm in the garden, and I'm getting ready to pick some turnips that I'm gonna need for this evening. If you watched my previous video where I was out here picking turnips, I was trying to thin this out a little bit because some of my turnips were very small and it was a little overcrowded. So I pulled some out, ate those that night. They were really good. And I'm gonna pull a few more out today because it's still just a tad crowded, but I've got some really nice turnips in here that are ready to go. Speaking of, not huge, but that's a beautiful little turnip. So I'm actually removing the greens. Turnip greens are really good to eat, but in this instance, I'm not using them, and I've got so many, I don't need to really save them. So I'm gonna do what has been called by David the Good, chop and drop. If you've ever watched his videos, I actually try to use a lot of the principles that he teaches in what I'm doing. So you just chop these off, kind of drop it down in there. That's going to break down and feed the plants. It's also going to help to keep some of these weeds at bay because the weeds here are just crazy. They are just a constant thing you have to keep up with. I've got a really good turnip over here that I'm going to pull and show you. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. That's a good turnip. So I've got a bunch like this. They're going to be just right to go with my roast, along with my potatoes and my carrots and my mushrooms. So I don't want to bore you with the 15 minutes of picking, so I'm going to pause this. We'll come back to it. Okay guys, so it is now about 1 p.m. and I need to get this started because it's going to have to bake for quite a while to cook this meat through. But I have to do a few things to prep it before it can go in the oven. First thing I want to do is you want to have about a teaspoon of salt per pound of meat. So I'm going to estimate a couple of tablespoons. We're going to rub some salt on this. And I'm going to let it sit here for about 30 minutes with this salt just kind of doing its thing, tenderizing this beef. So we're going to go a little bit more on this side. We're going to flip it over and do it again. A little more salt on there. This salt is going to soak up, it's going to liquefy and soak into that meat, and it's going to tenderize it. So when we bake it, it's going to just come out, fall apart tender. So we're going to give this about 30 minutes and we'll come right back. Alright, so a little bit of time has passed. I have let the salt just kind of disintegrate into this meat, and I have covered it in a nice layer of flour. And the reason I've done that is because I'm going to sear this meat first in a cast iron pan over here on the stove. And what that's going to do is it's going to crust up real nice on the outside of this meat and seal it to keep all that moisture inside when we bake it. But also it's going to give us a good base for when we make our gravy. The sauce that drips off of the meat into this baking pan as it cooks is going to mix with that flour. We're not going to need to do a whole lot to it at the end to make it into a good gravy because the flour is already there. Maybe a little bit of cornstarch, but we'll see when we get there. So in a moment, we're going to put this in the pan. We're going to get it seared up. Just going to get everything preheated, and here we go. Okay, so I've got a nice hot cast iron pan here. This is my favorite cast iron pan. It is big and beautiful and is perfectly seasoned. I'm adding a little bit of olive oil. And what I want to do is show you here, you know when your oil is ready when it does this. When you tip it, and you see how it makes those little patterns there. In the restaurant business, they call that when it's getting its legs. Never understood why they called it that, but you know, whatever. That is the term. So I'm going to take this big old beautiful piece of meat. I'm going to slap it right in there, just like that. I'm going to let it sear on one side for about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to flip it and crust up the other side. All right, we have flipped our meat, and look at that beautiful crust on there. That is going to seal things up nicely. I still have to seal the edges, but that's going to be one tasty hunk of meat. All right, so I have finished searing my meat. And if we come over here, you see we have a hot frying pan, and I'm going to start adding some wine. Oh yeah. So this process is called deglazing. And what's happening here is the wine is reacting with that hot pan, and it's peeling up all of that stuff on the bottom so that we have a nice sauce at the end. Ideally, I would have used a red wine, but I didn't have one already open, and I don't want to waste an entire bottle just for a cup of wine. So we're going to go with white today. All right, now that I've got this this wine kind of bubbling a little bit, I'm going to be adding my mushrooms and some garlic to this mix, and that's going to be the base for our gravy. Now, as my mushrooms and garlic are starting to saute inside my wine, I want to come back to the beef and show you that what I've done here is I've put some onion discs underneath it. What I want is to keep this beef up just a little bit, about that far, and that's going to let all the drippings come out into the pan, but it's not going to sit there and boil in its own juices. And you'll see the benefit of that when we pull it out of the oven in a little while. Okay, so now into the oven we go. I've got everything covered up, and we're going to have that in the oven for about 3 hours. When we come back to this, we're going to start adding our vegetables and then go for another 1.5 hours. All right, it has been 3 hours. I don't know how well you can see this, but this meat is already starting to break apart. It is super tender. I've got a nice base here for a gravy, which I'll be making when this is done. But now it's time to add my vegetables. I pre-chopped just for the sake of time. I've got onions I'm gonna put in here. Lots of onions. I love onions. I've got carrots and potatoes, and of course I got those turnips that I pulled out of the garden earlier. There's nothing in the world, food-wise at least, that is better than fresh grown from your own garden. And these are all going to go in here. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. Put my salt over here, a little bit of salt on my vegetables there, and I'm going to wrap this back up and put it back in the oven for another about 1 hour. I think should be good, just to get all these vegetables cooked down, and everything should be just about perfect at that point. So here we go. Okay, everything is out of the oven. I've got nice tender carrots, potatoes, turnip, and I've got onions in here, and my meat is pull apart, super tender, looks super tasty. I cannot wait to try this. And of course I've got my gravy, which is looking amazing. So as always, if you're enjoying this content, please like, subscribe, comment back for more videos, and I'll keep on posting. Thanks again.